Hey guys, welcome to another neuroscience video. This video is going to be about how we perceive music and how that changes across, cultures and where you're from, how you grew up, like all your different personality traits and all that. This is going to be like a little basic kind of primer to get kind of talk about the subject and kind of get a little bit into detail with everything, but not too overwhelmingly sciency. And I have been working on those other videos of like marijuana and LSD and alcohol and how those things affect your brain and how it affects you playing video games. But they're going to be coming in the near future. Just thank you guys for your patience. I know you've been asking me for those videos, and from the previous video about how aiming works in your brain and aiming in video games, and so those will come out soon. And I hope you guys enjoy the video. I stream on Twitch if you want to come in and say hello. And until then, hope you guys crush your lifts. I'll see you later. Hey guys, we're here at the music perception part. We're going to be talking about just kind of the basics about how sound moves through your ear and into your brain, and then kind of how you determine what you like what your personality and differing experiences and where you're from changes what you think sounds like good music. So let's just get back to the basics. You have an organ in your ear, the very base of your ear, called the cochlea, and that's what picks up on these differing sounds properties. And sound moves and has two different properties. It moves in a kind of a peak and valley type way called a sine wave, and that's going to be called frequency. And that the frequency is how fast those peaks and valleys happen. So a slower frequency will have a lower pitch, and then a higher frequency will have a higher pitch. So that means a lower pitch would be more like down here, and then a higher pitch would be like the little 12-year-old squeakers we all play against in Call of Duty, like the oh my god, like ah, those kinds of people. So those just are two different properties but still related properties of sound. And each note, so like if you have a C note or a B note or whatever, it moves at a certain frequency. And each of those notes, I'll get it more into this in the next slide, but as you go up in pitch, like a B3, so a deeper kind of note, is half of B4. So it doubles each time that note comes back around. And people who have perfect pitch, which is the ability to understand any note from anything, could just hear a bird and be like, oh, now that's bird in D4. Or, like those freaking annoying bus air brakes can be like, that's air brake in E2. But so that's kind of how perfect pitch works, and how your cochlea picks these things up are this thing called the hair cells. And they're little kind of hairs sitting in these inside the cochlea, and the cochlea is filled with fluid, and as sound waves hit the fluid, it will then go through the cochlea at a certain distance based off its frequency and pitch, and then it will stimulate these hair cells to move. And when these hair cells move, it tells your brain, hey, this is this sound, and you are hearing this sound. And people with perfect pitch just know that when there's a theory called place theory, that that a frequency and pitch will always hit at a certain place in the cochlea. And it's thought that perfect pitch is whenever that place is stimulated, that person just knows automatically this is what this note is based off the pitch and frequency. And so this is kind of going more into the perception of music, and I did kind of just talk about this, but we have the pitch. So that's going to be the octaves, which is going to be, an octave is the same note but either higher or lower. So a C3 and a C4 are the same note, but a C4 is slightly higher pitched. And as you can see, it is double the frequency. So every doubling of frequency you go, that's the next octave. And so I did mention this in the previous slide. So there's location and temporal neural firing. So that means where it's firing, the exact spot in the cochlea that it's firing, and the time that it's firing in. So it's kind of just that mixture of pitch and frequency. And what about perceiving music greater than 5 kilohertz? So that would be 5,000 hertz moving into very high-pitched noises. And we can't really perceive too well the differences between notes at that high of a frequency. It just becomes extremely difficult to kind of pick apart, is that E or F, or, it's just very hard to determine differences between the differing notes past that frequency. So we got our boy Skeletor just freaking rocking out on the flying V. And so we got the chord theory. And if you're more interested in kind of the music theory, and as I'm a guitarist, I don't really know music theory that well. I would recommend checking out a guy named Shredmaster Scott on YouTube, and Music Is Win, and a few other guitarists. They're more guitar based, but they are also very musical in the sense of knowing a lot about music theory and being able to understand and learn about these things in kind of more detail, maybe not from a neurological standpoint, but from this is just what it is kind of standpoint, just giving the idea of what music theory is and differing things about it. So there's two different types in terms of sound of chords. There's consonant and dissonant. A consonant sound is very pleasing. So that's going to be something like a perfect fifth, which is, again, a musical, music theory. And that just means that the ratio between the two frequencies is 3 times the first frequency is the same as 2 times the frequency of the other note. And so that means that means they're a perfect fifth. And people who have very good pitch and can know music can hear this. They may not know exactly what they're listening to or what they're hearing, but that's what they're hearing. And a dissonant is very jarring, something like a minor second. So that ratio is 16 times the frequency of one is 15 times the frequency of the other. And differing music styles kind of come up with their own sort of rules regarding this. Like heavy metal, like the stuff I listen to, really into the dissonant stuff. Like they are hardcore into minor seconds and doing these very dissonant sounds. And these consonant and dissonant chords can be triads, dyads, and there's and a few others. But dyads would just be 2 notes composing of the chord. So you have just, 1, 2. So like maybe A, B. And then a triad would be 3 differing notes composing the chord. So like A, B, and C. Or A, B, and C sharp, or something along those lines. And then just continuing with this, just as kind of another way of thinking about the way tones and music works, you can kind of think of it in this horribly pixelated, I am so sorry, but the textbook that I was using to come up with this PowerPoint had this picture, and I just thought it was so good to be able to understand this. So this kind of imagine music and musical notes as this kind of little spring going straight up. So the higher that the tone is, that means the higher the frequency. And then there's another component of tone called tone chroma, and that is, chroma is Greek for color, and so that means what note specifically are you talking about. So at the very lowest, in this picture at least, you have A1. And if you go up 2, 3, 4, 5, at the very top, that A5 is still an A. It still shares the tone chroma that A has, but it's at a much higher frequency. And so the different chromas come together to form keys. So a key is just what sounds pleasing together. So like A minor is just going to be A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And those sound like they go together. But if you do like A, then A sharp, that's more of a dissonant sound. And that won't match as well with the key of a Western A minor sound. And so a key is basically just all these things that come up to create a whole. So it's all the little notes that create a whole. So what are the cultural differences? Well, the scales and therefore keys differ across cultures. And I'm sorry for frying your eyeballs out, having a very dark slide, very black slides, and then now a bright white slide. I'm blinding myself right now. But so the scales differ across cultures. So an American blues player, let's say like B.B. King, to him, he's going to be sticking into the C, D, E, G, A, C. If he's, like he's playing Eric Clapton, B.B. King, they're going to be playing more of this kind of scale. In just say a pentatonic. This is just a very basic scale. And then, but a Japanese-born guitar player is going to be playing, and say you tell him or her to play a pentatonic scale, they're probably going to be playing a C, D flat, E, F, G, A flat, which is a lot different than what an American or a Western guitar player would play if you just said play the pentatonic. And so this just changes across cultures, and this is just representative, very basic representation of what a culture would find as a pleasing musical progression. Westerners are more likely to say, oh, this pentatonic on the right would be more pleasing to the ear, more consonant to the ear, because we've been raised and we grew up learning that this is kind of how things go. This is how they are matched, and this is, C, D, E, G, A is generally how these things, how a pentatonic scale should progress. Japanese, in the Japanese scale, someone born in Japan would say, oh no, this pentatonic is how things should progress, just because that's how they were raised and that's how they heard things and how they grew up. And so this just changes the differing acceptable pitches for a scale. And that's basically the main difference, is if you're raised in certain differing areas and you're exposed to different musics from a young age, for that cultural music, I should say, you're more likely to say, this is going to be the acceptable pitch, and then this other thing sounds different or dissonant or whatever when you hear it. And so making music, finally, we're getting to the actual basis. These two bands, just mind-blowing musical creation. So, you got Tool and you got Dream Theater. Just, no words. It's just self-explanatory. So you have basically the two main parts of making music is the melody and the rhythm. So melody is more the rise and fall in pitch. So, you go up in pitch 3 times, then you go back down in pitch 1 time. And then you just repeat that over and over and over again. That will be considered the melody of the song. And it's based off experience. Like, again, I talked about in the previous slide, it's based off what you grow up with, what you listen to, everything that you bring in, that you listen to, that you do, all that kind of thing. That's going to be kind of dictating the ideas of what you see as a melody. And infant research has shown this through differing, like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star and a few other things. And it doesn't matter what that key is being played in. Like, you could have, I'll use musical notes, you have D, E, and F. Now, this is again going to be musical terms. a whole step and then a half step difference. A whole step is just it goes up 2 pitches, or it goes and then a half step is it goes up 1 pitch or down. It just the difference between the two is 2 pitches or 1 pitch. And you can play it at a certain rhythm, which is the timing of playing, and it's that melody, that 2 pitches up, 1 pitch up. And then say you just say that, well, I'm going to play this in A, B, and C now, and play it with the same rhythm. It's going to feel like the same melody, even though it's in a different pitch grouping, but the rise and fall in pitch is the exact same. Like I can't just play Tornado of Souls, play the solo. You don't have to all laugh at once, but play the solo not in B minor. I can play it in D minor, but play it the exact same way that Marty Friedman played it. That's not anything different. It will sound like Tornado of Souls, but kind of different. You'll be like, well, that doesn't sound exactly the same, but that's the Tornado of Souls solo. And so that's kind of how melody and rhythm create music. Like you know what something is, no matter where it's being played. And so why do you like certain types of music? Well, people don't really know, but it is very based off of your personality, is what scientists are thinking. As far as I know, it's not very like this is exactly what causes you to like this kind of music. The super big buff tattooed dude only listens to classical music. You wouldn't expect that from what he looks like or something like that, or something else. Whatever you want to think of as an example. And it's more about people are thinking it's more about your personality styles. Like if you're more, kind of conscientious, which is more like you're hardworking, want to get things done. You want more complex music and things like that. So, or you kind of want, in other personality traits, you want really fast-paced, heavy music. So more metal, or rock, things like that. And people don't really know, but it's kind of related to your personality. So I wish I could give more information, but it is thought that your personality kind of changes what you find as appealing music. And what's really interesting is that music preferences and personalities in Brazilians, this study is actually found that many styles are, again, related to your personality of the Brazilians tested. But it's also representative of how, like, Brazilian dance music was one of the things that certain personality traits would really tend to like. But, that's, again, showing they were raised in the Brazilian culture, and so they're going to be more leaning towards Brazilian music. But then, say, take somebody from, I don't know, Belarus. They're going to be listening to more Belarusian style music, and anywhere you're from is going to be more leaning towards how you were raised, and what you listened to as a child is what you're going to be liking. And just another part of science that shows that nature and nurture are combining to create you and will mold you into who you are today. And so that's the end of my presentation. And lesson, again, like I said, this is very basic, very not super in-depth, but I kind of want to give a little bit of a primer out there. And if you guys liked it and you stayed with it for the whole way, please give me a like, a comment. Let me know what else you want to listen to or find out about. And so thank you guys so much for listening. Remember, I got I stream, and I will be posting more on my YouTube. And so I hope to see you guys next time. Hope you have a great rest of your day, night, morning, whenever you listen to this. Till Till next time, I'll see you later.